Hello, my name is Catalina Martinez, and this is my presentation on Racist Project, specifically Donald Trump and a series of racially charged tweets. So, a racist project, it links social structures and the representation of humans in a negative way, and it's an effort to redistribute resources and racial dynamics. A racial project must create and recreate structures that create racial ideas and stigmatization. So, anything that follows that criteria um, and continues the idea that that only certain people should have and keep power. So this can be an ad, a speech, a movement, a statement, anything really. So my example of a racist project is this tweet tweeted by previous President Donald Trump on July 14th of 2019. And it states, so interesting to see progressive Democrat congresswomen who originally came from countries whose governments are a complete and total catastrophe, the worst, most corrupt, and inept anywhere in the world, if they even have a functioning government at all. Now loudly and viciously telling the people of the United States, the greatest and most powerful nation on earth, how our government is to be run. Why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came? Then come back and show us how it is done. These places need your help badly. You can't leave fast enough. I'm sure that Nancy Pelosi would be very happy to quickly work out free travel arrangements. So a little background, the women he's talking about are these four Democratic women of color. From left to right, it is Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So they are known as the Squad in Congress, and they are all young left-wing politicians who support diversity and youth in our government, and a lot of times will go against what Donald Trump has to say. Um, so what are the implications of this tweet and its undertones? First, we have white supremacy. Trump's tweet actually shows his superiority complex in his whiteness, and white supremacy is the belief that the white population is superior and should be the ones in power. Those with white power are inclined to continue with this idea as it gives them power. George Lipsitz says that white Americans are encouraged to invest in whiteness to remain true to an identity that provides them with resources, power, and opportunity. In other words, why would you not want to continue investing in this whiteness if it's going to give you benefits? And that's exactly what happens in our country. People continue with the idea of white supremacy because it gives them benefits. Um, White supremacy works completely on the exclusion of people on the bottom of the hierarchy. Again, George Lipsitz says, to be white, that it's good to be white in a world where the advantages of whiteness are carved out by people's disadvantages. And this means that people of color are pushed down in the social hierarchy in order to lift up the white people and give them these advantages that we have discussed. So Donald Trump's tweet further emphasizes the idea that American equals white and that any person of color is just not welcome. However, this is quite ironic because all of the squad are American citizens and they do deserve to hold positions of power just as much as anyone else. If not by your vision, then by the Constitution. Anyone who is an American citizen can become a Congress member. So back to the implications. Next, we have whiteness as property, and Donald Trump's tweet continues the narrative that being white gives you certain rights. So what this means, being white gives you certain rights, is that having the possession of whiteness is like having the possession of property. It gives you other benefits. For example, if you own property, it can give you safety, a place to live, places to keep your things safe. In the past, it gave you voting rights. And Evelyn Nakano Glenn says that the lack of access to property prevented them being people of color, Black people, from acquiring the main form of wealth enjoyed by white Americans. And again, that is all of these things, the safety, a place to live, things like that. So just like property gives you special access to certain things, so does possessing whiteness. Whiteness gets you extra rights like extra safety, exceptions in the law. We can all see how the justice system treats people of color versus how it treats white people. A lot of white rich people are given exceptions in the law because of their money. Whiteness can give you power, supremacy, survival. A lot of people of color fear the police, while a lot of white people find the police to be a survival thing, a safety thing. But being non-white can actually get you killed by the police. Um, so even today, immigrant people of color are still seen as non-Americans, even if they follow all the rules. And again, this follows a narrative that whiteness equals citizenship. You only deserve to be in America if you are white. However, in this tweet, Trump is allowing this narrative that whiteness still gives you political power, respect, belonging. Back to Evelyn Nakano Glenn, she says Blacks were also deprived of political citizenship through racial gerrymandering of districts and exclusion from party machines that controlled big city politics. So again, Trump is allowing this narrative. He makes a case that these women of color don't know what they're talking about and they shouldn't be there and they need to go back to where they came from and fix their homes first, even though that's not where they came from. Three of them were actually born in America and the other was naturalized as a small child. So even though they're all educated citizens of America, whiteness as property makes it seem as though they don't belong here and they should not be allowed to have this power. Next, we have chattel slavery. So in this tweet, Trump demonstrates how chattel slavery changed the idea of Black people, and that idea still exists today. So chattel slavery, again, changed the perception of Black people when they were turned into commodities or slaves. Stephanie Smallwood says that the slave trade was an economic exchange that had to transform independent beings into human commodities, whose most socially relevant feature was their exchangeability. So them being Black, their skin color, is what made them exchangeable. It made them labor, money, things like that. And they didn't reap any of the benefits themselves. And it was just for the white people to be able to have money and gain capital. So during the slave trade, slaves were dehumanized during this time, and they were seen as less than human. It created ideas about the Black population that they were less intelligent, less capable, shouldn't be citizens, things like that. And so in this tweet, Trump shows that he still sees people of color as a means to an end. He still uses them and sees them as things that he can control. He wants them to go back to their countries, figure out how to solve all their problems, and then come back here and solve them here. But that doesn't make any sense because they are all American citizens and most of them born here. So he is really just continuing this idea of chattel slavery even years and years after the slave trade. And the final implication is primary human accumulation. This tweet actually shows the long-term effect of primary accumulation. So primary accumulation is changing the way that wealth is accumulated based on the idea of separating the ones who are actually producing things and the ones controlling all of it. So Nikhil Paul Singh says that primary accumulation is the more fundamental process of divorcing the producer from the means of production. People of color were actually creating these things that America needed to gain capital, but the people getting all the money were the producers, the white people, and the people of color were being, again, pushed down, down, down until they could not gain any capital. So again, people of color were producing things, yet not gaining anything. So people of color have historically not been allowed to expand their capital gains, including societal gains, due to prejudices. And again, Singh says that developing cutting-edge procedures, logics of calculation, circulation, abstraction, and infrastructure, the slavers' management of human cargo, the camp, the prison, the forward military base, innovations that can proceed insofar as they're unfettered by legally protected human beings, advancing new prejudices built upon the old. So keeping these prejudices, keeping the people of color down actually helps in the long run to keep the white people at the top and give them money. So this led to little to no political power given to the people of color to create ways for them to gain capital on the level of white people. And we can see this today as in the stark contrast of non-white representation in our government. And the amount of white people versus people of color is extremely different. So people of color still have little to no political power. And again, Trump's tweet shows the lasting effects of this primary accumulation because the respect and the power of these people of color in this political space are still so low. And many people see them as less than and out of place, like they do not deserve to be there. So what does this mean? Where do we go from here and how can we move forward? Moving forward just means that we need to allow and promote the inclusion and the growth of representation, acceptance, and the gain of people of color. They deserve to be here as much as anyone else, and they are as American as anyone else. And continuing to have people in the presidency who support other things is extremely counterproductive. Thank you for listening to my presentation.